Well, welcome to another live stream. This is a little bit different than what I've been doing. I've been focusing on the fishing thing, but tonight I wanted to jump on and do the music thing. So I'm glad you guys are stopping in. Wyatt, I see you in the chat once again, buddy. Thank you for coming back around. I really appreciate it. There's only, it might even just be you and me talking right now. So I'm just going to give it a couple minutes so people have a chance to realize that it's live and maybe catch up to it. Tonight, I'm going to be talking about my passion. even takes over fishing. It takes over all of that. But it's music. It's music. It's what I do everything for. It all comes back to this nucleus. It is the heart and soul of this old boy. And that's music. So tonight, I'm going to get back into this. I've been hesitant to do the streams on the music. I think it's simply because it's a really personal place. And, we have a tendency to protect those personal places, the psychological personal places that we have. Well, tonight I'm going to open up a little bit there and I'm going to share some ideas and stuff I have. But I want to give people a few minutes to try to just chime in and get it kind of catch up and such before I just bull them over. But good evening, Wyatt. I appreciate you being here, buddy. Hopefully we'll get about 5 to 10 people. Jingo, hey, welcome. As soon as your message came through, the number count went up. But I thought it was just Wyatt and me. Good evening. Welcome to the music live chat. Appreciate you stopping in, man. I still want to give them to maybe 5 minutes after 8 here and let people kind of catch up and stuff. Do you guys play? Are you guys musicians at all? You guys sing? You write? Tonight I'm going to be talking about songwriting. When I learned music, of course, the first thing I wanted to do, really the purpose behind me learning any instrument, was so that I could create the song. And so that's really what I'm going to talk about tonight. I think this is going to be like a series of videos that I do, these live streams. I might come back and do... like I said, like a series of how to kind of write songs, kind of a methodology, at least my methodology on how I'm writing songs, how I kind of think my way through it. So I think I might do a couple of these here on the music channel, and this is just the first of that. So you guys are kind of catching it at a kind of a cool time. You can tell everybody you were here for number 1. Yeah, just the outdoor stuff. So you know that I travel a lot on the Harley. The guitar comes with me, and I stay in the outdoors. When I'm out there, I'm off 2 wheels. I'm out there in the weather. I'm on the bike. I'm traveling. I'm camping, and I'm out boondocking too. So I'm not going to campgrounds most of the time. I'm just finding places to set up and get through a few nights or even a few weeks at times. So if I'm somewhere posted up. It's not really related to music, but it's more about travel and more specific to motorcycle travel. But I think there's really 2 major roles when you're out on the highway traveling. You got to know how to get through a territory, and you got to know how to stay in a territory. A lot of folks, when they think of traveling, all they think about is how to get through a territory, and that's the easiest thing to do. You just keep moving. And as long as you have gas in the tank, you just keep on going. You know what I mean? And that's easy enough. But if you had to stay somewhere for 2 months, could you do it? That's what's hard. That's what keeps people from traveling. It's never learning that skill set, how they can go somewhere and just persist there for a length of time, even indefinite if they had to. Yeah, fishing, trapping, and hunting. I tell you, anything in the outdoors, I'm gonna enjoy. I like to have the creative outlet, though. As far as music goes, I'll always come back to the music, and that's what these live streams are going to be on. So listen, I'm going to go ahead and start. It's 8:05 on my clock, so I'm going to let it go. So good evening, everybody. Do me a favor and do that, and check the sub if you're not. If we haven't met, I think we've all met, but if we haven't, the name's Randall. Good evening. Welcome to the live chat. I'm going to do a series of these live stream takes on, and I'm going to keep them. YouTube saves them, but I'm going to do this series on writing music. If you know me, There's two things that I'm doing right now. I got the music thing going on. Most of you guys know me from music, but I have a very small, very humble fishing charter. So I have a few folks who are from the fishing world here, and I have a lot of folks on this channel that they all just know me from music. Well, this stream tonight is going to be about writing songs. It's my number one passion. It's what keeps me on the highway. It's what keeps me working a job like the fishing charter. It's so that I can travel, of course, and then the mode or the way I put fuel in the tank is through the music. So if you didn't know, that's kind of the synopsis. You can follow all my YouTube channels, guys. I go into detail about it, and you can actually follow my trips and everything. And if you want to follow my second channel, my fishing channel, you're welcome to do that. Link is right down below. It's Randall Rydes Fishing. So you can check that out if you want to. So let me get right into this. Thank you guys for being here. What I'm going to talk about is going to be, of course, about songwriting. And I'm not going to do I'm not going to tell you how to write a song, because that totally throws the whole artistry right into the trash can. You got to have the artistic freedom to be able to express. And that's very important in all the arts. The moment you put art into a box or in a category or something, you're restricting it, and you're going to get some lackluster version of it, which explains why we have so much garbage music out there. And that's simply because they've been controlling. People like to in the companies, they like to control an artist because they feel like they can predict what they're going to do, and now they can invest on them and such. And the problem is the expression and the artistry gets affected by that, and we don't want that. That's why you guys who grew up in the 70s, the 60s, and through that era of what I call the greatest music that will ever be written on planet Earth, they had incredible freedom as artists to just create. And so you had artists doing what they are good at, and it was creating beautiful, incredible compositions. And unfortunately, we're kind of getting away from that. But that doesn't mean you can't write an incredible song. So I'm going to go over kind of what I do whenever I'm writing. So Jingo, good evening. I'm glad you're here. Like I said, I got a couple people from the lake, and I have water friends and I have highway friends. It's kind of neat when the worlds come together, You guys remember that Seinfeld episode? Friends from different worlds, they come together. I'm having a moment with it. So before I get into my I really start dialing in how to write a song, I want to preface it with this. There's a lot of genres of music, and I think it's important to understand my perspective whenever I'm writing a song. It's going to be from that of a country perspective or a rock and roll perspective. If you write rap, for say, it is going to be very different in methodology than what I would suggest you write. There are some fundamental things that are perfect in alignment with it. I would not hesitate to sit down with a songwriter that's writing rap. I would not hesitate to do that, because I understand the metrics that people look for in music or in flow or in beats and melodies, and I understand composition well enough that I could have a good conversation, but understand the perspective is going to be from that of a singer-songwriter picking up a guitar and writing a song. That is the core of my songwriting. It is the best. I think the best music ever written came from that perspective, and certainly a lot of it. And keys, too. We like keys, but I don't play much keys, so... Yeah, good evening, Eric. Hey, brother. Mark, good evening. Do I like bluegrass? Yes, I do. Absolutely. I have a couple bluegrass songs I've written. I had a bluegrass band for quite a while, actually. Yep. Absolutely. I love bluegrass. Always come back to bluegrass. As a country music artist, always come back to bluegrass. It's a great tip. I share that with other musicians all the time. I'm glad you brought it up, Mark. Yep. So, to write a song, I started writing songs when I was in like high school. And like I said, I learned the guitar with the intent of writing a song. And I'm telling you, when I learned how to play CDG, I wrote 2 songs with CDG. So I learned how to play those chords, and then I wrote 2 songs using those chords. Mostly, and I remember this, the biggest reason I did that is because I wanted to exercise those chords, and switching between them and then being able to sing at the same time is all like practice. I don't have to tell you that I've written a lot of bad songs over the course of my songwriting career. I have a lot of really good ones, but through that learning process, you got to allow yourself to write, and just, even if it's just generic, just to get it down, just to get it out. Like the first time you put something on paper, it's probably not going to be your masterpiece. It's probably going to just be one of those pieces you use to generate some momentum toward your masterpiece. So don't be afraid to write a song. Sit down and put it down. Get some paper out, get the guitar, get the keys out, whatever it is you're going to write on, and start working toward it. But when I started writing, I learned pretty fast that I needed some rules, some kind of guidelines for me to be able to start writing a song. Because you sit there and you just pull out a piece of paper and you set it in front of you like this, and you got a pen up and stuff, and be like, okay, brain, go. You're likely not going to get anything on the paper. So you need something to kind of guide you toward it. So I'm going to share some of those things with you. They are what I call rules to write by. So this is going to be like a rules to write by series. So I hope you guys join in for this. I'm going to do a couple of these videos, and I'm just going to cover a couple of my rules. Now, just like all good rules are made to be broken. So these are not hard and fast. They're suggestive rules, but know that they are rooted in a good place. They're rooted in a good place. They really are. So if you're writing music, take it, as a grain of salt, but take it for what it's worth. But it really will help you, and I think you'll find some wisdom inside, between the lines, kind of, that you can apply to your songwriting. So, okay, so we're not writing rap. We're going to write from the perspective of a guitarist who is writing. Think of like old country, right? The 3 chords in a story kind of writing. That's the best stuff, if you ask me. I just love it. I get into my old country. I love my old country, and almost the older, the better. Almost. And of course, the bluegrass is wonderful too. And those guys, I've told people before that bluegrass can rock like the Rolling Stones. I've been there, man. They can rock. And if you haven't experienced that, you just haven't hung around it enough. Bluegrassers know how to rock. All right, so I have 3 roles that I've written down here. I have a bunch of them, but I have 3 that I want to focus on. And so, roles to write by. Here we go. Rule number 1. Everybody got their pens out? Here we go. Rule number 1. Where to start. Where to start. First off, you got to find a place to start from. And before you ever pick up a pencil, before you pick up the guitar, you want to have this. And what is this? The place to start from. What is that? It can be a lot of different things. But I'm always going to come back to this, though. As far as writing, as far as words on paper is what I'm addressing here. Because you could have a melody in your head. You could have that melody and it could pull you in. I think Michael Jackson, he wrote a lot from melody, which is really interesting. A whole other thing. And I don't do melody writes. But it worked well for him, didn't it? But what I'm talking about is words on paper. You must start with an idea. You must start with an idea. That's really rule number 1, is where to start. You start with an idea. The way I worded that is very deliberate because it's still kind of open, right? It doesn't narrow it down too much. And that's just as important as starting with an idea, is that it's not too restrictive. The idea should come to you And I'm going to use for an example, because I have it recorded on this channel, and you guys, after this live stream is done, you guys can go listen to it. I just recorded it a few weeks ago, and it's called Charlotte. The video is called Charlotte, Snow, and a Dead Battery, I think it's called. But it's just from a couple weeks ago. But Charlotte is the name of the song. That's the one I'm going to use for the example. So start with an idea. The idea behind Charlotte, and this is the example I'm going to use to kind of illustrate the songwriting process, all right? Charlotte the idea I had for that was that I wanted it to be a highway song. I wanted it to be about a guy riding a motorcycle, and he's dealing with some like thought stuff, like it's all in his head, you know. Maybe it's a heavy emotional experience for him, which I think is important, that there's emotion in song. I think that's important. As a side note, I will say today's music is really interesting, whereas the moment there is emotion in it, it's like you failed. It's like if it means something, you've failed the song, which is really curious. And I'm not saying it's good or bad, but listen to some of the music nowadays and you'll find that it's good music, or people like to listen to it until it starts to mean something. So if there's some depth to it, it's a failure. And that's an interesting change that's happening in music right now. Interesting. I don't agree with it. I think that music should have depth. Emotion should draw us into it. If you love music, you love the emotion that draws you in. So lesson number 1 is to start with an idea and go from there. The idea for Charlotte is this. There's a man riding his motorcycle, and he's going down the highway, and he has a daughter, and she's essentially the only one in his family. And he's not really close with his family, but his daughter, he has a relationship with. The wife is passed on, and the daughter is all that's left. And he's traveling through the cities, riding down the highway, and she's there in that city, and he's still just kind of riding along, right? So he's having this little moment of like the story that I'm trying to convey with the song, that I'm writing it down, was this little battle that he's having. Because maybe he's not the greatest father, maybe he's not the greatest person, whatever it is, there's a lot of stress in all families, but certainly in this relationship, it's no exception. So here's a man riding through town, and this is just the idea that I have. And he has this difficult relationship with his daughter, and he wants to go see her, but he doesn't want to either, because he knows he messes things up every time he goes over. You know, it's that kind of, I don't want to mess it up again, you know, and so he just keeps on thinking about going, and then thinking about just riding through. And ultimately, the song, and you guys can listen to it, when it carries you through it, it's a story, of course. And at the end of the story, I didn't want to give you the conclusion. I suggest it, but it's up to you in your own mind to finish it and decide how that story ends. So it's an open end. It's not tied up. It doesn't have the bow on it and such. But it's called Charlotte, and I want you guys to give it a listen to, but understand that I didn't say any rhymes with you. I didn't give you any lyrics. I simply posed to you the idea for the song. And so for weeks, I'm telling you weeks, and this song I wrote over the course of probably 10 years. Just picking away at it little by little, refining the idea, changing how I had it written, and modifying it and stuff. And that's the beautiful thing about songwriting, is you are the owner of it. So you can morph it, you can change it. And if you love it, you're going to live with it and take it with you everywhere you go. And you're going to work on it while you're driving in the car. You're going to be singing this song, and there's going to be a melody that clicks. You're going to think, oh, I want to try this one thing right there in that one spot with the instrument. So all of that stuff, it has a spawn point. It has the heartbeat of it. And that's what you need to define first and foremost. Without this, there is nothing. Start with an idea. Does that make sense? Hopefully you guys can pull some motivation from this. And if you're thinking about writing a song, hopefully this is something to kind of get the juices flowing. If you've had this idea, but you haven't put it to paper yet, maybe it's time. maybe it's time. Start writing it down. Which brings us to number 2. Number 2, after you have a well-defined idea and you're actually going to go to paper, and you're going to start writing things down, this is what I want to tell you to do. My rule number 2 is real simple. Write what you do know. Write what you do know. So what do you know about my example with Charlotte? What do I know about these two characters that are in my song? I know it's a father. I know it's a daughter. And I start writing a story. It might not ever be in the song. Just write it down. Like, what happened? What happened? What's the background? Let's give these nameless characters in your story a real life. Something that they've gone through that has shaped them and put them in this position. And you can start writing lines down, and you might come up with some zingers too, something that sounds really good, you know. I think the first line that I wrote that I really liked was, "He's just an old man with shaking hands, taking a rest from the ride." And I have a lot of experience riding in cold, wet weather. And what happens is your hands, you guys have experienced this, if you're out there in it for hours, your hands just stop working, right? Hands are cold, your body's cold, and you're just kind of like clenched up. The rain hitting your face, it just gets difficult, uncomfortable. So here he is, here's an old man, and he's going through town, and he's feeling like that. It's just a miserable situation. I had this line that I wrote down. He was an old man with shaking hands, so maybe he has tremors, but he's just an old man, right? And he's been riding for a while, and he's tired, and he's taking a rest from the ride. So he gets off the highway. Maybe he's pulled over, he's at a gas station, drinking some coffee, and he's standing there with a coffee in one hand, and it's raining, and he's there sipping this coffee, and I have him going through this town, and I'm creating this image, this story, this picture of this old man traveling through town, and he's thinking about his daughter. I think another line I wrote in there was, he loves her, right? He loves her, but her heart is hardened toward him. He loves her, but her heart is hardened toward him. And when I wrote that down, I started thinking, oh, he did something to her. Like, he deserves this animosity that the daughter has, and he knows it. You ever been there? Have you ever felt like that? You ever feel like somebody's upset with me and they should be? So I failed them. And so the old man in the story starts to build, I'm trying to build his character for you through this writing. Keep in mind, I'm not really rhyming it. I'm not putting out structure to it or anything. I'm building on this idea simply by giving you some life to the character. It may never come out in the song, but I know this old man that I'm writing about, he has a soul now. He's not just a nameless figure. I was listening to some guys talk about writing rap tonight, and that's kind of why that came up earlier. And he was talking about how invariably rap artists will start rapping about having a nice watch or having nice clothes or a nice ride or something like that. He said, but it's always empty unless it means something else. And he said, with the watch, he goes, yeah, I've got a nice watch on, but I remember whenever I was, digging through whatever the mire was that they were dealing with in life when they came from the lowest place, but now they got a nice watch on their wrist. So it's not really about the wristwatch, right? It's about overcoming the adversity. And he put a lot of emphasis on that. That's building the soul, the background, the characters in the story. And that is important. Without it, it's shallow. So take the time when you're writing your idea to add soul to it. Bring these characters to life if there's a character. If there's not a character, there's another way to do that. But I'm using this example tonight of Charlotte, and we have these two really strong characters in the story. And the old man, with shaking hands, takes a rest from the ride. The smell of asphalt and leather wet has left him tired and blurry-eyed. That's the opening line of the song. The setting is put in place for you so that you understand where this old man's at. The smell of asphalt and leather wet. And if you know the smell of wet asphalt, or if you know the smell of wet leather, you know these are pungent smells. And he's there in it, just cold, miserable, in the rain, soaking wet, thinking of his daughter, who happens to live in that city. And by his own account, he has no right to go see her, but he's thinking about it. He's thinking about it. Why not? The guy is miserable. It wouldn't be a terrible thing to just go and dry out for the night, right? It's his daughter. Why not? So, rule number 1 is to start with an idea. And in Charlotte, I started with this idea of the old man riding through a town that his daughter lives in and dealing with this conundrum of should I go see her or not. Number 2 was write what you know. Guys, I've spent a lot of time on the highway. I know the emotion. At some point during any long trip, you guys know this. If you went on a car trip, you know this. At some point, it's not a road trip, yay. It doesn't. At some point, it loses all its fun, right? It falls apart. All the fun's gone, and now you're just enduring it. And sometimes it's misery. Sometimes you got a headache. Sometimes you're tired. You're hungry. The kids are loud. You have an argument, and now you're sitting in silence or whatever it is. It becomes uncomfortable. If you hike, even if you enjoy hiking, at some point in a long hike, it's going to become drudgery, and you're just going to endure it. So write what you know. I know this. Whenever I'm out and I'm riding and it's raining and it's cold, my hands start to shake. They get tired. I don't want to hold the bars anymore. My face stings from the rain hitting. Everything stinks. I know the smell of asphalt and I know the smell of leather. I know these things. And if you ride it all, these are little things that if I say them to you and you go down the highway on 2 wheels, you know exactly. It brings you there with me. It takes you there with this old man. So write what you know. I will say this. The human species is very sharp. They're very perceptive. If you can think of this, if you've heard music that you didn't connect with, go back and listen to it again and see if this is true. But find music and go listen to it and see if you connect with them, or the moment they say it, you're like, I don't believe this. Or it's shallow. Doesn't mean anything. I was talking to my daughter. She's learning to play guitar, which is awesome. And she goes, what should I write about? And I said, well, Kara, so I don't know if you have anything to write about yet. I said, I think you have to know. You have to have the idea first, right? But you have to have know. If you've never been through heartache, if you've never had your heart broken, don't write a song about getting your heart broken. Because humans, we people, we are very perceptive. Someone that's actually had their heart broken will hear you sing about a heart being broken and not experienced it, and we will be like, we don't believe a thing you're saying. We will know. We will absolutely know. And you've experienced this, right? Because you got musicians and artists that go to a studio and they spend tens of thousands of dollars to record a song, and they don't know if it's going to be a big hit or not. But you'll listen to it, and within 10 seconds, you already know if you like it or not. Probably within the first 2 lines of singing, you already know if you like the song. That's how perceptive people are. So when Charlotte comes on, the first 2 lines in the first line of a song, this is a different role, I didn't write it down, but the first line of the song is so important, guys. When you're writing words down, we'll put this as like, as, the write what you know is like part A. This is part B. When you're writing what you know, make sure that first line that you choose to open your song up with, make sure that it is something that has impact, something that'll grab, something that like with Charlotte, it paints a picture, something that'll grab their attention and hold them just long enough to get through to the second line. The first line of a song is so key, so key. So you open up, there's a little bit of music playing, and then the first line of the song is, there's an old man with shaking hands, and he takes a rest from the ride. The smell of asphalt and leather wet has left him tired and blurry-eyed. It creates an image, a picture. You got a character, and you got a setting, and that's a solid start to a song. And now people can, with a little bit of education, can decide whether they like your song or not. And by that point, you listen to Charlotte, you'll find at that point, you're probably going to decide whether you like the song or not. But if you hang on and you listen to it, there's more, and I'm going to get into it. So rule number 1, start with an idea. Rule number 2, write what you know. And try to start with a good, strong first line. So number 3, and this is probably the most intuitive one, the one that you'll understand the most. And it's amazing how writers will mess this up. But rule number 3 is this. Keep it music. Keep it music. Let me explain. When I'm saying keep it music, there's certain elements of music that are really important to be able to convey a message through song. Things like melody, rhythm, a beat, rhyming. Let the words rhyme. Now, there's a lot of writers that will tell you, well, I sing it a certain way, and so it sounds like it rhymes. Heck, you can do a search right now on YouTube, and rap will talk about any word rhymes if you say it the right way. I would argue that you're not saying the right word then, because they don't rhyme. So, but write it so that it does have the flow, the melody, the rhythm, and the rhyme. I think that's very important. Keep it music. Keep it music. Again, I'm not writing from the perspective of a rap artist, so if there's anybody out there that watches this and you're thinking rap, that's not what I'm doing here. I'm writing this from a singer-songwriter perspective. So we're talking about melodies. There's going to be singing involved in these songs. It's not going to be spoken word, but the delivery is going to be in melodies, and rhythm and beat and stuff is all good for rap, but I'm really talking about the melody, I think. And the melody in singer-songwriter type music is so much more powerful if you keep rhymes in it. So ultimately, the third rule there is to keep it music. There's plenty of ways to write songs and to sing the words so that the flow and the melody's all there, and you just don't rhyme at the end of it. It's actually artistic liberty. And like I said, all these rules are to be broken if you think that they should be in the song. But by having these steadfast rules, we have something to come back to that's concrete, that we can revisit and then build from, and then decide if you want it or not. So Charlotte starts taking this life on, right? You get past those first couple lines, and now the story starts to open up. And if I still have the listener at that point, I should be able to, at this point as a writer, be looking for another role that I didn't write it down. But it's to get them into the hook, get them into the chorus. These are all different terms that's used to say the same thing. The hook is the chorus is the hook. You might include the hook with a bridge or something like that, but there's a million ways you can divide a song up. Ultimately, you want to get them to the hook as quick as possible. You want to get them to the hook so that they don't lose interest, because that is a real thing today. We deal with ADHD society nowadays, so we want to get to the hook quick enough. And so there's some other rules about time and how long you should take to get to a hook, how long you should let a song spin before you call it the end of the song. And I'm guilty of breaking all these rules, and I hope you are too as a songwriter. Let me push a pause button right there. I feel like I'm doing a lot of talking and stuff. Are there any writers in the chat? Do you guys have any questions for me? If you stop later to watch this video, there's a lot of information, and I'm not doing the examples here live on air. I'm thinking about including the guitar with me the next time I do one of these little sessions, because I think that'll help to illustrate it moment by moment for you so that you can kind of catch yourself through it. But when this video is done, if you would, stick on the channel just for a minute and give Charlotte a listen to, so that you can decide as the story plays out if you like it or not. And I appreciate your feedback, guys. I've started a new format too. Yeah, so Charlotte is like a new format video too. I don't know if I can really do music videos because, I don't have all the equipment and I don't have help. It's just this guy. But I can certainly do some shots, some B-roll shots, and put my song, record it and put it over it and kind of do a little thing with it. So when you watch Charlotte, you'll pay attention. We had some snow that day. I couldn't ride, so I just kind of messed around with the camera a little bit and ended up with a nice little video to go along with the song Charlotte. I'm probably going to stay on for just like 5 more minutes, just hang out with you and kind of chat. Let me do this since I have just a minute, and there's only a couple of us here, but that's all right. If you want to follow me, you can go to randallrydes.com, and this is where you find everything Randall Rydes. I have my information there to be booked. And, of course, my dates are listed. I have a couple songs down here you can listen to, and I have my tip jar right here at the bottom. But this is where you can go for everything Randall Rydes is on randallrydes.com. So you don't have to go too far to find me. It's linked down below in every single one of my videos as well, so you guys can track me down anytime you want to find me. I'm easy to find, and I hope you do. I hope you do. Side note, if you're a musician, all my songs are written. This is another role that I haven't got into tonight. But all my songs, the way I write, is so that a musician can jump in and out of my songs very easily. So I am very much a musician's musician. I will play with other musicians, and I work well with others. I do. There's nothing, the only thing better than writing music and playing music is doing it with others. When you bring other people into the fold, the dynamic just grows, and it's a beautiful thing when that happens. Well, good. Guys, I think I want to stop right there. I want to stop on that song, but when this is done, go to Charlotte, the video, and give it a listen to, and let me know what you think. Say something in the comments for me. I appreciate your feedback. Most of all, thank you so much for the thumbs up. Thank you for hanging out and being in the chat and everything. But I'm going to get out of here and enjoy the rest of the evening. But thank you guys for stopping in. You are awesome. That's it. Much love and much respect. Have a good night, guys. I'll see you in a couple days. See ya.